When my phone rang in the doctor's waiting room, I thought it was just another reminder. But what my daughter said next took my house, my car, and everything I believed about family. She didn't scream. She didn't argue. She just said one sentence and hung up. That was the moment I realized I was never as safe as I thought. I was sitting in a quiet doctor's waiting room, hands folded in my lap when my phone vibrated. The name on the screen made me smile. Angela, my only daughter. I answered immediately, but her voice wasn't warm. It wasn't rushed. It was cold, distant, like she was reading from a script. Mom, she said calmly, we're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I blinked, confused. Before I could ask anything, she continued, I sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The beach house Robert and I bought with 40 years of savings. The old pickup truck he washed every Sunday like it was family. Gone. I opened my mouth to speak, but she didn't wait. Bye. The call ended. Just like that. 45 years of raising her. Sacrifices. Missed dreams. And I was erased in a 10-second phone call. People around me coughed. Magazines rustled. Life continued. But something inside me went very quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I simply took a deep breath and smiled. Because Angela didn't know something. She thought she had taken everything. She didn't know about the envelope. 6 months ago, when my husband Robert passed away suddenly, he handed me a manila envelope 3 days before his death. Put this in your drawer, he said softly. Only open it when you're ready. I never told anyone about it. Not even my daughter. As the nurse called my name, I stood up slowly. According to Angela, I no longer had a car. So I walked to the bus stop. And as I waited, watching strangers rush past me, I felt something strange. Peace. Because my daughter believed she had one. But this story was only just beginning. I stood at the bus stop with nothing in my hands. No keys. No car. No home, at least that's what my daughter believed. She thought she had taken everything. But she forgot one thing about me. I was married to a man who always planned ahead. Main story. The bus arrived with a tired sigh, and I climbed aboard slowly. I took a seat by the window, holding my purse tightly, as if it still contained my old life. The city moved past me. Houses, shops, people rushing with places to be. According to Angela, I no longer owned a car. So this was my new reality. I watched my reflection in the glass. 71 years old. Wrinkles I had earned. Eyes that had seen love. And now betrayal. Angela always believed she was smarter than me. That I was too soft, too trusting, too old to understand the world. Maybe that's why she didn't hesitate. She sold the beach house Robert and I bought when Angela was just 15. We saved for years, no vacations, no luxuries. Every summer, that house held our memories. Birthdays, Christmas dinners, laughter echoing through thin walls. And the truck, that old Ford pickup Robert treated like his own child. Every Sunday, he washed it carefully, changed the oil, parked it under the same tree. Angela knew what those things meant to me. That's what hurt the most. She didn't just sell property. She sold memories. She sold my past. The bus stopped, and I stepped off near my home. Yes, my home. For now. Inside, the house felt quieter than usual. No sound of Robert's footsteps. No humming in the kitchen. I went straight to the bedroom. My hands trembled as I opened the dresser drawer. There it was. The manila envelope. Exactly where Robert told me to keep it. I sat on the bed we had shared for decades, holding that envelope like it was fragile glass. Robert had written my name on the front in his careful handwriting. I didn't open it yet. Not tonight. Because some truths change everything. And once you open them, there is no going back. That envelope sat in my hands like a warning. My daughter thought she owned my future, but my husband had already protected it. What I read next didn't make me angry. It made me ready. Main story. I waited until the house was completely silent. No ticking clocks. No passing cars. Just me and the envelope. At 71, you learn patience the hard way. I took a deep breath and opened it slowly, as if the paper itself might disappear. Inside were 3 things. A folded letter, a thin stack of legal documents, and a small, unfamiliar key taped to the corner. I read Robert's letter first. If you're reading this, he wrote. It means I'm no longer there to stand beside you. I'm sorry for that, but I was never going to leave you unprotected. My hand steadied. People think kindness is weakness, the letter continued. Even our own daughter sometimes forgets who you are. So I planned for the day someone might try to take advantage of you. I swallowed hard. The documents explained everything. The beach house, transferred into a trust my name only 6 months ago. The truck, sold quietly last year. The money placed in a separate account Angela had no access to. And the house I was sitting in? Legally untouchable. Robert had anticipated this moment. He saw the signs I ignored. The impatience. The entitlement. The way Angela spoke about me instead of to me. I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. The key taped to the envelope belonged to a safety deposit box. Inside it, according to the final page, were copies of everything. Evidence. Proof. Protection. For the first time since that phone call, I smiled. Angela believed I was confused. Old. Easy to manipulate. She was wrong. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back inside the envelope. Not because I was done with it, but because I knew exactly when I would need it. Some battles aren't fought with shouting. They're won with silence and timing. And my timing was finally right. My daughter finally came to see me. Not with love, not with concern, but with panic in her eyes. She thought I was cornered. She didn't realize I was already 3 steps ahead. 2 days later, the doorbell rang just after noon. I didn't rush. At 71, you learn that urgency is usually someone else's problem. When I opened the door, Angela stood there. Perfect hair, tight smile, eyes scanning the house behind me. Mom, she said, forcing warmth into her voice, we need to talk. I stepped aside and let her in. She walked through the living room like a stranger, touching things that no longer belonged to her. Her eyes stopped at the family photos on the wall. Robert holding her as a child. All 3 of us smiling, before life complicated itself. I heard you talk to a lawyer, she said casually, sitting down without being invited. I said nothing. Silence makes people uncomfortable, especially people with something to hide. She crossed her legs. Look. We did what we had to do. You're old, Mom. You don't need all that property. We were thinking about your future. I studied her face. This was the same girl who once cried because she broke a glass. Now she spoke about my life like it was excess baggage. My future? I asked softly. She sighed. You don't even drive anymore. I smiled. Just a little. What makes you think the house sale went through? I asked. Her expression changed. Just for a second. I handled everything, she said quickly. The papers were signed. Whose signature? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it again. That was when I knew. She didn't have everything she thought she did. I walked to the cabinet and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. Angela, I said calmly, you should be careful when you make plans that don't include the truth. She stood up now. What are you saying? Her voice sharpened. I looked her straight in the eyes. I'm saying, I replied, you sold something that was never yours. The room went quiet. And for the first time since Robert's funeral, I felt his presence beside me. She thought she could fix everything with one signature, one lie, one rushed sale. But the law doesn't care who your mother is. And that day, my daughter learned the difference between confidence and proof. Angela didn't sit back down. She paced the living room, phone clenched in her hand, tapping the screen like it might save her. At 71, I had seen this kind of panic before. Not fear of losing money, fear of being exposed. You're confused, she said, too quickly. We'll straighten this out. I'll call the buyer, or the agent, or the lawyer is already on his way, I said calmly. She stopped pacing. What lawyer? She asked. The one Robert hired 6 months ago, I replied. The one who prepared the trust. Her face drained of color. I sat down slowly, folding my hands in my lap. I didn't need to raise my voice. Truth, does that work for you? The doorbell rang. When the lawyer entered, Angela tried to smile. The kind of smile people use when they think charm can still fix things. It couldn't. The documents were laid out on the table. Dates, signatures, notarized seals. Everything she ignored. The beach house sale was frozen. The funds were flagged. The agent had already been contacted. And the car? Sold legally. By me. Angela stared at the papers as if they were written in another language. You told us you needed the money, she whispered, finally looking at me. I never asked you to sell my life, I said softly. The lawyer cleared his throat. "There's another matter," he said. The attempted sale involved forged authorization. Angela's head snapped up. Forgery. The word hung in the air like smoke. "This can be resolved quietly," the lawyer continued, "if the funds are returned immediately and no further action is taken." Angela looked at me then, not as a daughter, as a negotiator. I met her gaze. "I won't protect lies," I said. "I protected you your whole life. That ends today." Silence filled the room. Angela nodded slowly, tears forming not from regret, but from consequence. She gathered her bag and walked to the door without another word. When it closed behind her, I exhaled. For the first time in weeks, my house felt like mine again. But the story wasn't finished. Not yet. People expected revenge. They expected shouting. They expected me to punish her. But what I did next was quieter, and it changed everything. The house felt different after Angela left. Not empty, honest. At 71, I finally understood something no one tells you when you become a parent. Loving someone doesn't mean saving them from consequences. The lawyer called the next morning. The funds were returned. The attempted sale was officially voided. No court. No headlines. That choice was mine. I could have pressed charges. I didn't. Not because I was weak, but because I was finished being controlled by anger. I wrote Angela a letter. Not an argument. Not a lecture. Just the truth. "I raised you to stand on your own feet, not on my back. You confused my kindness for permission. From today onward, my life, my finances, and my future are no longer yours to manage." I mailed it without a return address. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I drove. The old truck Robert loved had been sold, but the lawyer helped me buy a modest car, one I chose myself. I drove to the beach house. Yes, my beach house. The same one Angela thought was gone forever. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, breathing in salt and memory. I didn't cry. I laughed, softly. Later that afternoon, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the sun dip into the water. I thought about Robert, about planning, about patience, about how strength doesn't always raise its voice. Sometimes, it simply stands still and refuses to move. Angela never called again, but she didn't need to. The lesson was already delivered. And as for me, I wasn't left with nothing. I was left with peace.